Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Digital Classroom. We are waiting to see if everything goes right with YouTube and Facebook. Enoweek is checking Facebook, I'm checking YouTube, and YouTube is a healthy stream. Enoweek, do you have a healthy stream?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. Hey Ineke and Fred, how are you? Welcome to Digital Classroom, and today's episode is a very special one, so let's go. I would say cheers, because today is a very special day. And what is today? It's September 5th. First off, I'm going to tell you about Digital Classroom for today. Now, Digital Classroom, of course, is a live stream. That means that we are live in our studio in Emmeloord, telling you guys everything about, well, what you guys want to know. But this is a special one because, well, there are a lot of things combined together today, and today almost didn't go as planned. It was literally, that's why we are 5 minutes late, a final call. We wanted to go live, did a whole different setting than planned, and then the doorbell rang. And our subject matter arrived. So we're going to talk about it later. Today is made possible by X-Rite and, of course, BenQ and Rogue. Now, one of the things that a lot of you guys ask me is color management. Frank, it drives me nuts. I don't know how color management works. I have these images and I see them in my computer and they look fine in Lightroom. I see them later on and they suck. Well, today it's all about that. But it's also about continuity. It's about creativity. And again, it's something special. Now, for that special part, we have to go back in time to a little Frank, 1971. That was when I was born, so I'm 47, if you can calculate really fast. Now, when I was born, it's in the 70s, of course, and one of the things that you found in the 70s were a lot of rock bands, right? So we had a lot of bands that were then, like the Rolling Stones and whatever. And there was one band that was always very special for me and very dear, and that's the band Queen. Now, Queen, yeah. So, our son is actually called Brian. The guitarist from Queen is called Brian May, right? See the link there? And the way that I actually got to Enoweek was by a mixtape with all my favorite songs from Queen. Because they have so many hits that you can actually make a mixtape that calculates back your feelings for somebody. And, well, in all honesty, I also met Brian a few times and even Roger Taylor. And they're both very, very nice. And that's the weird thing about Queen. If you see the interviews, if you see the guys, they're incredibly nice. They're very down to earth. And somehow it's just awesome. Okay, fast forward a little bit. Frank is 16 years old and feels this urge to create something. You know that, right? People play in bands. So, what did I want to play? I wanted to play the guitar. I wanted to be Brian May. Yeah, sure, one of the best guitar players in the world, and I want to be him. So, in that time, we also had guys like Yngwie Malmsteen, Paul Gilbert, Def Leppard, and whatnot more. So, we had this whole shred movement, and we had this whole, of course, classical rock movement. But Queen, for me, always was like here, and everything else came a little bit lower. So, why today that Queen note? Well, very simple. Today is September 5th, and that's Freddie's birthday. And, well, Freddie's not with us anymore. And Queen still lives on, luckily. Now, you may think about Adam Lambert what you will, but hey, at least they still play. So what has that to do with today's Digital Classroom? Well, I thought, you know what, we have to do something special today. Now, fast forward 30 years. I'm 47, I stopped playing guitar many, many years ago. And I actually didn't have the time for it anymore. I still liked it. I kept all my guitars, I kept my Marshalls. Everything was still in our attic. And I always said, you know what, one day I'm gonna play again. And it never happened. Last Photoshop World, one day. Scott Kelby came up to me and said, Frank, you sent me a mixtape once with all your stuff you played. Tomorrow you're gonna play with our band. And I was just going like, I didn't play in 30 years. Doesn't matter, you're gonna play. He gave me a Paul Reed Smith. Go to your room, go practice. Tomorrow you're gonna solo with Rick Salmon. And I was just going like, ooh. I totally fell in love with it again. My fingers bled literally. And when I got home, I started practicing again. And of course, I started playing. Awesome. So why this link with today's workshop? And why that link with Queen? Very simple. Last week I posted something online and it was a little bit of a pop quiz, and today I'm going to give you the answer. The pop quiz was, thanks to Scott Kelby and Rick Salmon, I bought something. It's very unique and it's, between quotes, special. And there was only one guy that actually got it. What did I buy? I actually bought something. It's a little bit of a joke, an inside joke, but wait a minute. I actually bought something I always wanted from starting my 16th birthday. And I finally have it. Isn't this just awesome? It's a little bit hard to play. It's like the strings are not a 0092046, but it's you can still, it's like a mini Brian May. So guys, if you read that post, why is this unique? There's only one in the world. Why is it special? Because it's called the Red Special. Today, we're going to do something with this, but it's way too small. So we're going to do something else. So, color management. Now, of course, as you can see here, the Red Special has a really red color. Now, how do I make sure that when I photograph something, that color also translates back to, well, the colors on screen? And one moment, I have to do something on the chat room because there's somebody here that I don't want to see. So let me do this. Hide. Cool. Okay. Let me see, there are already some questions. It's working. Hey, Frank, and everybody else watching. This is the live stream, so I have to check this very quickly. Okay, let me kick somebody out. Remove. There we go. I don't like any obnoxious commands. There we go. That's a problem with spam. Okay, so how do you make sure that all your colors are correct? Well, the first thing, of course, you have to do is make sure that you have a proper calibrated workflow. But what the heck is a calibrated workflow? How does that work? How do you do that? And how do you make sure that when you upload something to YouTube, sorry, to Instagram or whatever, that it still fits? Now, the first thing you have to realize is that there are different color spaces. We have, for example, an sRGB color space, which is small. You have an Adobe color space, and you have the Pro Photo color space, and of course your RAW color space. The second thing you have to realize is that all devices you use have different profiles. So that means that my monitor, for example, has a profile, my Wacom has a profile, my printer has a profile, my camera has everything has a profile. Now, one of the most heard questions is, what do you select in Photoshop? Well, Photoshop doesn't have a profile. It works in a color space. So when you set up Photoshop, you actually set up Photoshop, for example, for sRGB or Adobe RGB. And I always advise you guys to do Adobe RGB. So what do you do with those other profiles? Well, the first thing you have to make sure is that your monitor is calibrated. Now, I use a BenQ monitor, and I'm going to show you my setup very quickly here. I have to do that like this. So let's see if you can see it. This is a Wacom Cintiq, really nice. And on top, you see a BenQ monitor. That's a 32-inch. 4K monitor, absolutely awesome, and Wacom underneath. Now, why do I have the Wacom and the BenQ setup? Well, very simple. I'm really picky about my colors and my shadow detail. I find that my Wacom is absolutely awesome for retouching. So you have the pen, and it works like a charm. It's really, really easy, and as soon as you get addicted to it, you can't kick that addiction anymore because retouching on a Wacom is awesome. The only problem I always had was that in shadow detail, somehow the Wacom doesn't show you all the shadow detail. It isn't a bad device, don't get me wrong, it's awesome, it's the best in the world to retouch on. But if you want to see all that shadow detail, all those bright colors, you really have to find something else. And that's why I have the BenQ on top. So the BenQ in Photoshop I actually set up for my navigator, so that means that my navigator is big, and we're going to show you that in a moment. But the navigator is big on my BenQ, and on the Wacom I retouch. But how do I make sure that my BenQ actually shows the colors correct? That's where something else comes in, and this is a so-called color analyzer. Now, this is a very simple one. This is an X-Rite i1 Pro, i1 display, and you can get the i1 Pro, you can get spectrometers or whatever. And this is where the first thing goes wrong in your workflow. You have to make absolutely sure that you set everything up correctly. I'm going to show you now with Palette Master how you can set it up. And then we're going to share some of the ideas. And then, well, that's part 1. Don't worry, we're still going to do a photo shoot today, and a very special one, an awesome one, and product shoot. And I'm not going to tell you what yet. So let me switch back to my desktop. Oh, first we're going to do some questions. Let me go up. Okay, there we go. Good afternoon. I don't have a quality problem. All my photos look bad. You know what they say, and that's really the God honest truth. If you make a mistake, it's a mistake. If you make the mistake twice, you're dumb. If you make the mistake 3 times, you're stupid. If you make the mistake 4 times, you have a style. So, you know, images don't look bad, they have a style. And if they all look different, that's your style. Okay, let me see. I received my first original photograph of William von Glotten a month ago, about 100 years old. That's absolutely cool. That was the time when they still knew about photography. Nowadays, people just click way too much. Okay, let's go to my desktop. Okay. There we go. Okay, so this is the Palette Master software. And in the Palette Master software, you can set up certain things. Now, if you don't have Palette Master or you don't have a BenQ, why not? You should have a BenQ monitor. They're awesome. Now, if you don't have a BenQ monitor, don't worry. This also works on every other software device because, well, it's actually universal. So the first thing you have to do, of course, is go to Advanced. Don't go to Basic. Go to Advanced. Hey, because it's Advanced, right? And we know what we're doing, I hope. Just go to Start. Okay. Now, the first thing, of course, we have to do is profile the monitor. I'm not going to do everything for the very simple reason it takes a long time and I don't want to keep you guys too long. So let's go next. Okay, so this is where it's actually very important. Now, in almost every setup, you can choose between, for example, photographer or desktop publishing or whatever. So in this case, we choose photographer, and now you choose your white point on D65. That's D6500 or 6500 Kelvin or 65K or whatever, but it's 65. It's very important. The RGB primaries for this monitor, because this is an Adobe RGB monitor, is Adobe RGB. So you can also do other primaries, like for example sRGB, Panel Native, or Rec 709, which is for video. DCI P3, that's for HDR video, 4K, and BT 2020, that's even a bigger color space, but that's also for video. So don't worry about those. The ones that are important for us is Adobe RGB and sRGB. Okay, and now comes the difficult part where a lot of people go wrong. If you're a gamer, if you watch movies, you want the highest light output possible, right? If you do video and you do, for example, desktop publishing, you want a higher light output. But if you do photography and you aim for print, you don't want too high, because what happens when you have a too high light output? Very simple, it compresses everything when you print. So in other words, you get your print back and you go like, ooh, that looks dull. And then in Photoshop, of course, you could have solved that by just adding a little bit of contrast, a little bit of curves. So make sure that this luminance is not set on 160, but actually somewhere, and it depends per person, I like 130. A lot of people will go for 100 or 140. I'm always a little bit like, okay, anything between 100 and 140 is fine. 140 means more light, 100 means less light. Do remember one thing when you set this up. Your black point, or the maximum lowest black your monitor can get, is not 0. There's always a little bit of bleed in the panels. And that can't go any lower. So when you want the maximum contrast ratio, you need to set it a little bit higher, because you're actually cutting off the top and the bottom doesn't go lower anymore. So make sure you don't go too low. 100 I think is too low. Gamma, 2.2 for photography, 2.4 for any form of video editing. Black point I always set to relative instead of absolute 0, but you can also go for absolute 0. It's something you have to work with. I actually like relative a little bit more. Then it just calculates to relative, and otherwise it will just go like how black the panel can go. Go next, and this is the most important thing, and this one is where all people, if they have problems, 99%, this is the setting where it goes wrong. And the setting is actually here, profile version, version 2. Version 4 sounds better, right? Don't go to version 4. Version 4 can have a little bit of problems when you go from Lightroom to Photoshop, or the other way around, or from Capture One to. If you use version 2, that's actually a setting that works almost through your whole system. So make sure you choose version 2. Now system level, I don't touch normally. Calibration presets, that's for the BenQ. We do it in calibration preset 1. And profile type matrix. But better, of course, is 16 bits LUT. Because 16 bits LUT is actually inside the monitor. You have a higher resolution, better, smoother gradations. It's just a better setting. And patch size small, medium, or large. Do whatever you like. So some will take a little bit longer, some will take a little bit shorter. Okay, that's how you set it up. After this, your whole system is set up for your calibration. So you don't have to think about the monitor anymore. Now the problem what you will get is, how the heck do I work from there? What do I do? Let me switch back to my normal camera. There we go. Okay, so what do I do from there? Now comes the difficult part. The first thing you have to realize, when you print, make sure you use profiles from your printer's manufacturer. So if you use an Epson, use the Epson profiling. Which profiling? Well, you're not actually using the printer profiling, you're using the paper profiling. So if you use premium gloss paper, make sure that you set Windows or Mac or Photoshop or whatever for that premium gloss profile. So as you can see, all the profiling are connected to what you use. So monitor, camera, printer, scanner. So you don't use your calibration from your monitor in Photoshop as a workspace. That doesn't make any sense. We call that double color management and it looks really, really bad. Okay, now, I feel bored. We have to do something interesting. Don't you agree, Anouk?
Yes.
I talked way too much. It's already like 22 minutes in. I don't know. Let me see. What can we do? I want to make a photo where colors really pop. Should we make a photo of this one? Let me see. What does the audience say? Oh, there's a lot of questions. What if you shoot under changing light circumstances, day and night? What's the advice for luminance? Okay. Is the quality not dependent on the monitor quality and not whether you choose ProPhoto RGB or sRGB? Can every calibrator be used with hardware calibration in the BenQ? I've got a spider. Okay, first the Rowie62. Can every calibrator be used with the hardware calibration in the BenQ? I know that there is a list of calibrators that are compatible. I know that Spider is now also compatible with the BenQ, so yes. But make sure you check it. Also with the analyzers, especially these are the so-called 3 stimulus meters. Make sure that you recheck them every 2 or 3 years. They do go down in accuracy. And I'm an ISF trained engineer. That means that I can do calibrations for the ISF, Imaging Science Foundation. We use way different gear from this. This is more like, dare I say, more like the hobbyist stuff. And we use like the really expensive spectrometers, the really expensive C6 series and whatnot more. And those are actually recalibrated every single year. The normal ones you use for your monitor, I always tell people like every 3 years just buy a new one because they're not that expensive and you know for sure that it's right. The other one is if you work on the different lighting systems. Okay, this is a cool one. I'm going to answer that actually when we do the photo shoot because we use something called a color checker or a white balance card. Now, if you are under really different light situations outside and you want to make sure that everything works the same, get those really cheap QP cards, the 101s I believe they're called, and just cut them up in small pieces and just stick them on your model's clothing somewhere. So you have a walking white balance card. So every time your model has a shot, you can actually white balance on that shot. On the other hand, I don't know, it's always nice outside, of course, if the color changes a little bit. But if you're really about, it has to be the same color temperature every time, and we have totally different color temperatures, just stick one of those QP cards. You only need a little bit where you can zoom in. Just stick it on a clothing somewhere, and you have a walking gray card for every single shot. Just take it out in Photoshop, and you're done. Let me see. Is the quality not dependent on the monitor quality and not whether you choose ProPhoto RGB? There are 2 different things you have to realize. Of course, the monitor is really, really important. But the color space itself, Adobe RGB and sRGB, are fixed color spaces. They have nothing to do with the monitor. If you choose Adobe RGB and you have a really cool monitor, like for example the BenQs, they will show you that Adobe RGB. If you have a real shitty monitor, like on your laptop, it will not show you Adobe RGB, but you're still working in that color space of Adobe RGB. If you calibrated your monitor correctly, your software will actually do the calculations to Adobe RGB. So you will be fine, you just don't see it. And the first one was, let me see. Oh, there we go. Do you shoot compressed or uncompressed RAW? Okay, that's a cool one. On Sony's, we have an option called uncompressed RAW and compressed RAW. I'm really picky about my quality. I tested them both extensively, and I ended up shooting compressed RAW. I just didn't see the difference. I saw the difference once, I believe, in a green, how do you call it, a grass area. But hey, could have been my mind. So yes, I shoot uncompressed RAW for the very simple reason. We shoot so much, and uncompressed RAW is like twice as big. So no, uncompressed RAW. Okay, let's go to the set and let's do some photo shoots. And again, Annemiek, can you set this one up for me, please? And can you, we have Photoshop, right? Do you want to set this up and can you make it a little bit bigger for me?
I can.
Yes, you can?
Yes, I can.
What are you going to use in Photoshop?
The blow-up tool.
I hope Scott Kelby isn't watching. This is ridiculous. Of course not the blow-up tool. You need to make the guitar bigger tool.
Oh,
So make the guitar bigger and set it up. You have 2 minutes. So Annemiek is now setting up the guitar. She's going to try to make it bigger in Photoshop. Do you think it's going to work? I don't know. So let's switch over to our studio cam. Ah, you did it, Annemiek. It's bigger. That's awesome. Okay, I'm going to walk to the, let me immediately do this. So Annemiek doesn't have to think about that. There we go. Oh, that's the wrong one. Sorry, guys. I have to do...
Now they see our new intern.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. Okay, I'm going to walk over there. So, there we go. Okay, I'm going to sit down in a moment, guys. Don't worry. Let's start up the camera. Okay. So, Annemiek really made that guitar bigger. That's absolutely awesome. Annemiek, how did you do that so fast?
Magic.
Yeah. Am I in the picture?
Yes.
Awesome.
Look at the camera.
Okay, great. Camera is over there. Hello, guys. Okay, so let's do this. And the reason I do this, of course, is because the red special has that really nice red special look. And of course, today's Freddie's birthday, and I love Queen. So I thought, you know what, let's make this a real special workshop. But you can, of course, just photograph a guitar and just photograph a guitar. But in my opinion, we end up with just a photo of a guitar. And although this is a really special guitar, I don't want to end up with just a photo of a guitar. I want to do something special. So let's first meter the light. And we have one strip light with a grid on our subject. So let's meter this. Now the thing about metering light is actually always very simple. You aim towards your light source or not. No, you hold it in front of the area you want correctly lit. And in this case, that's the guitar. So we have 4.02. And if I do it like this, I also have 4.02. I want to end up at 5.6. So let's go up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, that should be 5.6. Let's grab the camera. So I'm shooting with the Sony A7R III, in case you wonder. Oops. And let's just do the first shot very quickly. And literally, guys, I didn't see my own guitar yet because it literally came in.
Something wrong with audio.
Oh, what's wrong with the audio? 1, 2. Do we have audio?
Somebody shouting audio.
1, 1.
It still comes in.
1, 2, 1, 2. Do you guys still hear audio? Should have audio.
Het is een beetje krakerig.
1, 2. Okay, guys, can you please confirm that audio is working?
On YouTube?
I think audio is working fine. Maybe when I walk that you hear it a little bit.
Noise.
Okay, is it better now?
It's okay.
Oh, okay. Okay, so we have the first setup. Guitar. Yeah, it's okay. It's a beautiful guitar, of course, but it doesn't really call out to me like, oh my, I love this. Let me try another angle. Nah, it's not really it, you know, Anouk, do you agree? But there's a reason I shoot it like this, because of course we're gonna add some effects. We're gonna make sure that it looks a little bit nicer, because we want some more light on the backdrop. I have some chairs on the backdrop. I have a nice plant on the backdrop. So we have already a light setup from the back that will actually side lit the guitar. But still, why do I shoot it like this? For the very simple reason, we want to have accurate colors, right? Now, if you want accurate colors, there's one more thing you have to do. You have to calibrate your monitor, but you also have to use something else, and that's called a color checker. So I'm going to grab my color checker very quickly. And this is an X-Rite ColorChecker Passport. So that's this one. Gonna place it in front of the guitar, aimed towards the light source as flat as possible. Gonna take a very quick shot of this. Make sure that it's as much in the picture as possible and it doesn't block anything with shadows, which it now actually does. So make sure that you take care of that. So move it a little bit more to the side. There we go. That's awesome. So now I have my base color correct, I hope. Okay. So now, Anouk or Bart, can you please turn on the red strobe? Let me just make sure that this cable doesn't hit me anymore. Okay, awesome. So now we have some red lights from the back. Now the reason I did the color checker before we turn on the red lights is actually very simple. The red lights, of course, will infect my picture with a color, right? Now if we want the front light to be correctly on the guitar, we need to have a color checker before we turn on the red light. If you want the guitar to look proper and you aim red light at it, it's important that you have that base correct. Some people will go like, hey, but Frank, you shoot with the red color, right? Shouldn't you do the color checker with the red color in the image? No, because then you actually take away the light from the front and you calculate for that one, and it will actually make the red pop a little bit less. So always make the color checker, always shoot the color checker with only the normal lighting, so without any form of gels. Okay, let's make a picture with the red. There we go. Now this is way, way better. So I really like this. The only problem I have is this guitar is a little bit higher than the one we tested with. So I need to change my strobe just a little bit to also light the top of the guitar. So let's do that. There we go. And just aim it a little bit. Now, the light is actually feathered away a little bit from the guitar because I didn't want the light to hit the guitar full on. So let's try that again. Let's make a nice composition. There we go. So now we have some more light on the head of the guitar. There we go. It really shines. Now, if you want that red to pop just a little bit more, always remember that the angle of incidence is the angle of reflection. So now the light actually just kisses the guitar from the side, but it doesn't really make it shine. So what we have to do is make sure that there's a little bit more light hitting that beautiful, beautiful red. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick this up and just turn it like this. Now I do have to make sure that there is no reflection on the guitar, and that's actually something that can be really difficult, as I can see now. So I have to change my position. And first I'm going to show you what happens when you do it wrong. So as you can see here, this is a disaster because now you have a lot of reflections on your guitar. You go like, yeah, that doesn't really work, right? No, it doesn't. So you have to make sure that you aim that light perfectly. So there we go. Pick this one up. Go back just a little bit. Make sure that there's only a little bit of reflection on the side. That's okay. Let's say on the side of the guitar. Okay, have to aim it a little bit more. And this is really tricky. This is something you have to spend a little bit of time on. There we go. Don't do this too fast. I don't think I can do that in Photoshop because that will be an absolute terror. Okay, there we go. Nice. Okay. A little bit too dark. No problem. Pick up your light. And that's the cool thing about the Hansel system. I can literally just tilt this and turn it. There we go. Aim this just a little bit more. And it's an incredibly shiny surface. There we go. Awesome. There we go. Now you see that red coming through. That's cool. Let me see if I can get it under a slightly different angle. Better, much better. Absolutely stunning. Love this. But I think it's a little bit boring. Anyway, do you agree? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do we have some smoke? Yes, we do. Can you put some smoke on the back? Yeah, first the one on the back. So we're going to put some smoke on the back, and smoke, of course, is a diffuser, is a reflector, and so much more. It's most of all a mood maker. So that's why we're going to use smoke, and we're just going to fill it up a little bit. So aim it a little bit towards the back part. Not towards me, to the back. Yes, like that. And just fill it up. Okay, a little bit more and up. Okay, down. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, let's see what that little bit of smoke does. There we go. That's way better. The only thing that I now miss is a little bit of smoke on the front. So, Anne-Wiek, if you can grab that one. And I want a little bit of smoke just underneath. So, Bart, when I say yes, you first fill up the back. Yes, go. And we have to wait for Anne-Wiek. Yeah, go. Okay, just fill it up. Anne-Wiek also behind, because his one doesn't work. There's a little bit too much smoke now. Because we still want to see that it's a guitar and not that it's a guitar on fire. There we go, that's awesome. Okay, let's try a little bit of a lower angle to give it a little bit more majestic look. There we go, that's nice. And I think Anne-Wiek just realized that we didn't put anything on the smoke alarm, right? No. Okay, then hurry up before the alarm goes off. Okay, by raising your light, by raising your angle of view, you actually make something look smaller. By lowering it and aiming up, you make it a little bit more majestic. And especially with a guitar like this, well, it's Queen, you want to make it majestic. So I'm going to go, Anne-Wiek, Anne-Wiek. Okay. Never mind. There we go. So we make it a little bit more angled up. There we go. Let me see if I like that. I like that it looks like a stage light behind it. Let's do it a little bit like this. Okay, there we go. That's pretty awesome. Anne-Wiek, the backlight, can you turn that all the way up? Let's just overblow that backlight, that we really get a nice, almost like an infection of red. Let's see if we can make it a little bit of a lens flare, for example. So aim it a little bit more towards me, Anne-Wiek, the light. And aim it down. Aim it down. Yes, a little bit up. A little bit that way. Okay, back. Okay, and now full power. Okay, there we go. It's now full power. This will probably be a little bit too much. That's actually pretty cool. And that's because the smoke actually also acts as a diffuser and makes it a little bit less, well, there, if you know what I mean. Okay, Bart, can you fill that up with smoke again? Nice. And of course you can work your Dutch angle a little bit. Although I have to be honest, I don't really like that. Nah, that's too fake. Okay, there we go. Another thing, of course, that you want to do is add a little bit of props. Now, Queen. What is the first thing you think about when you hear Queen? Bohemian Rhapsody. That operatic sound, right? So, anyway, do we have some masks that actually mimic a little bit like an operatic sound? Look at this. So, we're just going to place this somewhere in the back on one of the chairs, for example. Can you put it on that chair, Annemiek? Yeah. That's nice. Okay. And the other one on that one. So what I'm now doing is actually building a little bit more of a move. Now, when you want to sell this guitar, I don't want to sell it because I just got it 41 minutes ago. A little bit more straight up. Yes, there we go. Okay. If you want to sell something, it makes way more sense to make a picture like this for eBay than just photograph the guitar against the white backdrop. Because, well, white backdrops, I don't know. So this looks way nicer. Okay, there we go. Now, I do like the angle, but let's also make one with a normal angle. So let's do a little bit more wide. There we go. Now, as soon as you do this, you see that because I'm now shooting from a higher angle, you actually see all that stuff on the backdrop. You see that it's not really, well, a nice environment. It's just, well, plain, how do you call it, carpeting. So you don't want that in the picture. So that's where that smoke comes in again. Bart, can you do smoke on the floor, just on the floor? That's really cool. Okay. And now by using it on the floor, you can actually see that we're mimicking. I'm still gonna go for that lower angle. I really like that. Okay. Now let's do a little bit more adventurous. Let's go more to the side and let's try to get that backlighting in. Now this is not a cell shot, but it's actually more like a special effects shot. Really nice. That's pretty cool. As you can see, I'm actually using my camera on a lower angle, aiming it up. There we go, Bart. I need a little bit more smoke on the wood stuff on the back. Yeah, there we go. A lot more, a lot more. Yep, and lower. That's better. That's nice. Oh, no in the front, Annemiek. No, no. Okay, that ruins the shot. Always make sure you give proper instructions. So now we're actually... There we go. Now I can shoot it again. Okay. So I really like that backlighting. I really like that majestic look. Maybe a little bit less angle so we can also see the masks. Oops, that was too fast. Sorry, guys. There we go. And maybe just do one straight on again. Cool. And let's do some more final shots. I want to find that really cool sweet spot for the lighting and for the angle. So this is too much. As you can see now, I see my strip light. When I go like this, just tilt over. This is the maximum angle I can do. That's why I use the viewfinder so much. And anyway, can I have the small guitar? Let's place that next to the big brother. And let's take one of the masks, the one on the porcelain, and put it there. As you guys will probably already guessed, she didn't really make the guitar bigger. We have two.
Which mask?
That one, the porcelain one. And just put it next to on that side. Just aim it like this. No, there we go. Then just do it like this. Okay, let me see if we can make something cool. Like this. Okay. You will see that... that's really nice. Okay, a little bit of smoke against that chair. Or make the chair come a little bit closer, Bart, if you want. Just move the chair all the way to the front.
All the way?
Yeah, all the way to the front. More, 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 more. There we go. And make the white plant a little bit more in that hole that you now see behind. There we go. This is awesome. As you can see, I'm still changing the set around. I want to make sure that I hit my image. And the cool thing about this is you can always change this. It's a still life. I'm a little bit in doubt about the chair. Can you move the chair a little bit more to the side so that it doesn't connect with the guitar? To that side, more. Stop. Okay, I think that's way better. Okay, and a little bit of smoke on that side, and Bart a little bit smoke there. Okay, lower Bart, the smoke. And Enoweek, go. Keep it low.
Might be different fluids.
Yeah.
Because one is thicker.
There we go. This is nice. So now as you can see, by changing my angles, I can still make it a little bit more interesting. I have the big one, the small one. Let's do one final one and then I'm going to show you the whole workflow. I really like this. And let's get a little bit more angle in. Now we get the reflection in the guitar, so let's move here. As you can see, even for a still life, it still takes some time to really nail the shot that you want. But hey, normally we have time enough. Okay, really like this. Final one. Okay. No, we'll just keep the mask in. Okay, let's see what we can do in Photoshop with this. And of course with the workflow. Now the first thing, of course, you have to realize that my Capture One, which I use for capturing these files, doesn't support the color checker. So we have to find something else to do that. And that's Lightroom. So what I have set up in the back is actually Lightroom. Now I have to show you something, and a lot of people ask me about this, like what is a good workflow when you use Lightroom with this stuff? Okay, so this is my capture folder. If you look here, you can actually see that we have a capture folder, and it's called actually Frank Untitled Session Capture. Okay, so if I turn this down, I actually also in Lightroom have a capture folder, and it actually points towards that folder on my hard drive. So that's where all my images are that I just shot. So now when I do this, and I do synchronize folder, it will actually import those files. So let's do import. Let me first see if there are any questions in between. Let me see.
How many lights are you using?
Is the quality, okay, let me see. Short question, yeah. How often do you have to refresh your color checker? The color checker, I believe 2 years also. Or 3. It's in the back actually. You can see a date in the back. They also give you some advice. Okay, working better now. New guitar, Frank. Ellen, yes, we got it in like... We started Digital Classroom 3 minutes late. I was stressing out because we got a message from UPS. We're going to deliver your order from Brian May Guitars today. And I was just going like, this will be so awesome because it's September 5th. It's Freddie's birthday. I just wanted to do a photo shoot because I have to talk about color, a red special. I already hinted that we bought it. So I was going like, why not? That would be awesome. And it's only at 3 o'clock. And normally UPS is here at 10 or 11 or 12, maximum 1. And they didn't come. So I was freaking out. And then we started Digital Classroom. We actually have a guitar here, another one. And can you give me the Strat? Oh, you don't have it anymore? She destroyed it. And that's an Yngwie Malmsteen Strat. So we were just going like, you know what, just do it with the Yngwie Malmsteen Strat and don't give any attention to the red special. And then I wanted to press live, and the doorbell rang, and UPS actually brought the guitar in. So that's why we're 2 or 3 minutes late. How many lights are you using? We're using 2 at the moment. One strip light with a grid, the Hensel Expert, and that's the, let me see, I believe the 120 by 30 strip light with a grid. And one from the back, actually a normal reflector with barn doors and a red gel. Funny I have to say mask. Great minds think alike. Now you have to play the guitar to make an outgoing soundtrack for today's video. Trust me, Trevor, you don't want to hear me play yet. I'm still practicing my ass off. Okay, so here we have the guitar. This was actually where we started out by just testing the light. You see that now on the top. You see that there's not enough light. Oh, and it's also not sharp. Wonderful. So this one is. So on the top there wasn't enough light. So what I actually did is I just tilted that a little bit to give more light on the top. Okay, so here we have the color checker. Now, what do you do with the color checker? It's actually incredibly simple. There's software delivered with the color checker. The only thing you have to do is File, Export. And now you go to ColorChecker Passport and you just give it a name. In my case, this will be Sony A7R3 Hensel strip. There we go. Hensel strip light. And do export. Now I always advise you to do this for every modifier you use. So if you use, for example, Hensel strip light, do one for the Hensel strip light. If you use, for example, a reflector, do it for the reflector. Now as soon as you know that those are actually the same, now you can just keep using the same one. But at first, especially now after so many years shooting Elingram, we switched to Hensel. I still have to get used to the system, and some modifiers will literally color your lights. Now with Elingram and Hensel, that shouldn't be a real problem in all honesty, because they're really high-end brands. But for example, if you shoot with a very cheap brand, there can even be a difference in color temperature between the lowest setting and the highest setting. Now for the color temperature, you actually use that gray patch over here. I'm going to show you that in a second. The color itself is often the sensor of your camera, so you don't really have to do it for the strip light and the softbox, but especially when you start out, I advise you, because it's so easy to do, just do it for every single modifier you use. Shoot a color checker, make a profile, and then you have all those profiles which you can select. Okay, the only thing I now have to do is close Lightroom and start Lightroom again, because it needs to load that profile. Okay. And now, where do you find the profile? That changed. And the cool thing was, not a week or two before the release, I told everybody like, hey, you always have to go all the way down to do your coral profiling, and it should be on top. I didn't talk to Adobe. They probably didn't listen to me because they probably already had a beta that was correct. And now you can actually find it on top. But where? Well, you can of course press here and you don't find it. And you go like, ooh, now this is terrible. Where did my profiles go? Don't worry. Just press here. And now you can see two profiles. And you see the A7R3 Hensel. And we did a little bit of a test. Now you can see that these are actually the same. So you don't see anything changing in your color checker. Let me zoom this in a little bit more. So you see that it's a little bit... let me zoom it out just... Let's just go to fill. Or fit, whatever. Okay, let me show you what Adobe actually does. So if you go to Adobe Color, and I select it, or you go to Adobe Landscape, you see that these are all different profiles. Black and white, oh, that doesn't work. So Adobe Portrait, this. Now look, blues and the reds and the magentas. You see that they are all a little bit undersaturated. Now as soon as I go to the original profile, see this? They really dive in. So this is the Adobe one. And this is even Vivid, he mentioned that. And this is the one that it's supposed to be. So this is Adobe Vivid. But you can also see that it actually crosses your blacks. See that? Over here in the blacks. So over here. You can see that actually those profiles clip your blacks. So this is why using such a color checker is so incredibly important. Now of course you can go to Adobe Color. But also that crosses your blacks. You see that? Let me zoom in. So this is Adobe Color. This is the calibrated version. So some people will go like, hey Frank, I changed the colors afterwards anyway, so why the heck should I shoot a ColorChecker Passport? Very simple. All those profiles you create are a combination of slider settings. For example, 10% this, 10% that, -10 that, minus+ that, or whatever. And if you have a proper balance, so you use a light meter, so you know that your exposure is spot on. You use a color checker, so you know your color is spot on. At that point, you can very easily just use your setting, because everything is the same. So every time you run that profile or that preset, you will have exactly the same outcome. And that's incredibly important, because at that point you actually know that, well, your results are always the same. Okay, I have some issues on YouTube at the moment, so I'm gonna quickly refresh that. If you guys have 1 second. Let me see if we still have a live stream. Should be. Yeah, there we go. Okay, was just hanging. Okay. Do you have the new profile feature in... Okay, do the new profile features in Lightroom make any difference how to use the passport? You answered my question. Oh, great. So no. Okay, so I selected my Hansel. There we go, Hansel strip light. What I now do is edit, select all, and then just sync. So you go all the way down. Oh, first you have to close this. That's something that I always forget. Oh, and sync. Okay, now in this case I can do everything, so I will just do synchronize. There we go. So now all the images have that synchronization. And now I have to find the one that I like. So we'll go through. Okay, the reflection, remember. So I really like this. I think the ones with the smoke, of course, are way better. So, ooh. I think the lower ones are better. I really like this one. So let me give that 5 stars. I want to make sure that you also see that it's the red special, and the size of the shape, of course, already gives that away. Let's go to view with the masks. This is pretty cool, but I missed the smoke on the right side. This is nice. Give that 5 stars. So that's too much smoke over there. Okay. I think the angled ones also are pretty cool. But then I don't like the chairs in the back. Oh, this is nice, but you don't recognize that it's a guitar anymore. Anyway, can you please remove everything from the stage and only leave the guitar? So clean backdrop. Okay, there we go with the small guitar in the front. I really like this. But I think we needed a little bit more smoke there. There we go. I was very sloppy with my composition, guys. Sorry. There we go, love this one. I don't mind the reflections on the smaller one. Okay, this is better. Do this 5. And there we go. This one is pretty nice too. Let's give that also 5. Okay, so now the only thing I want to see is the 5s. So I go to 5s. Now I go again and go like, yeah, you know, not that nice, much nicer. And in all honesty, let me see. I think this one is a little bit out of focus. Oh, it's not nice. Go to delete. Okay, that one is in focus. So I have to choose between these two. And I think the other one has way more, as Jay myself says, a gesture. This one really kicks. Okay, so now because I use that profiling, I have to make sure, of course, that I also have the proper color balance. And you saw me syncing everything, but you didn't see me do the color balance. And that's actually wrong, of course, but that's no problem, because you can always go back when you have the color checker in there. So let's go back. Let's also give this one 5 stars. So let's go back to 5 stars. And let me show you what the difference is. So now we go to develop module. And you go here. And you just press this one. There we go. And now when I sync, you will see that the color changes dramatically. Because it's not only that color profiling, it's also that you really have to make sure that your white balance is set. So it's a double step rocket, I always say. You have the white balance, which is incredibly important, and you have your profiling. So don't forget one of those, because then you're actually stuck and it doesn't really work. Okay, let me see. No questions further? Okay, then we just go into Photoshop very quickly, and I'm going to show you how you prepare something like this also for the internet. And let me first do a little bit of contrast tweaking in the raw file. Just drop this down, a little bit of shadows. I like clarity in these kinds of shots. Just pump it all the way up. Now dehaze can work wonders with smoke. And it can destroy a shot. In this case I don't like it. Okay, and saturation, don't bump it up. Just leave it where it is. Okay, +4 is okay. Come on. 0. Okay, let's go into Photoshop. Command E. Now, of course, we want to do this fast. I don't want to do a whole retouching a guitar session because very simple. What can I retouch on this one? I do want to go into one of my favorite plugins, and that's actually, I'm a little bit in between at the moment between Alien Skin Exposure, which I really like for looks, and Luminar. Now, let's do this one very quickly in Luminar because I want to enhance some stuff, and that's really cool in Luminar. There we go. And now again, on my top monitor, I see the perfect picture. On the bottom monitor, I just retouch. So that means that normally I have Luminar or Alien Skin up on the top monitor, which I'm now going to drag down to the bottom monitor for you guys, which of course doesn't give me a real good issue of how it looks, but hey, at least I can show you guys. Okay, let's go to my presets. There we go. And I think like the 80s open look will look really nice with this. It gives you a little bit more of an Instagram look, but in this case I really like that. So do maybe a little bit less sharp. Or this one. So do it before and after, really cleans it up. So, but it does clip my beautiful reds a little bit. So let's go down here. Let's see where the problem lies. Okay. Make it a little bit more pop. There we go. Now let's go to our clarity or detail enhancer. In this case we want detail enhancer, medium details. Just pop it a little bit. There we go. And the large details also. There we go. That's really nice. So see it before and after. Cool. Now you see that wood structure a little bit better. The smaller guitar doesn't really benefit from this. And I like it the way it was. And that's probably the vignetting. So let's go down to vignetting. And let's just turn it off. There we go. Now I also have less of that loss of, you see this? It just makes it a little bit too much. There we go. Okay. Structure. Let's go down on the boost. You can use structure also in a negative setting, which really gives it a little bit of that softness back, because I don't want it to be too rough. Now this is always very difficult if you do it on your full size, so always go to 100% to make sure that you don't overdo this, because a lot of people actually overdo the sharpening and then you look 100% and you go like, oh, this looks really bad. So I always zoom in 100% and I always click before, after to make sure that it isn't too nasty. Now in this case, I think it gives a little bit too much on the, oh, we still have to remove some of that stuff. There we go, I think this is nicer. Yes, that's cool. Okay, go to fit on screen. Love it. And go to apply. Now you might say, Frank, you used that ColorChecker Passport and you just messed up the whole shot because it doesn't look like the original anymore. Yes, but I messed it up professionally. And that means that I can do this same thing for every shot over and over again. I never wanted to shoot the red special for a sale. I wanted to make a cool picture of it. And that means that when I have my color checker in there, as soon as I shoot it without the red strobe, I have a perfect representation of that guitar for sale, for example, to get the color right, or in a brochure. As soon as I start adding that as soon as I started adding that red gel, I actually make it a little bit more my personal style. Now, as soon as I go into Photoshop, or in this case Luminar, I make it totally my own style. I Instagram the heck out of that shot. But that's something that I really like about it. It makes it not a standard product shot. For example, you can do this on eBay as your main shot, and then make 3 or 4 shots in a tent or whatever with a white backdrop and just do that as, okay, this is the guitar. Okay, so before after. Let's mix those two a little bit. And there we go. Love it. I actually like the chairs a little bit. Let me know what you guys think. I like that the chair in the back is still a little bit visible. It gives that classic, you know, when I think about Queen, I think about that over the top, that beautiful, beautiful operatic stuff, that over the top styling. So yeah, really love this shot. Okay, layer, flatten image. And now comes the tricky part, boys and girls. File close. Now this shot is actually shot on, and we can see that in Lightroom in a second, because we're going to go to Lightroom. And here we have my edit TIFF. So this is my TIFF, my worked on TIFF. As you can see, this is with the whole preset in. I see details now. And again, I didn't see my guitar yet. Even signed pickups. Awesome. Okay, so I have this one, and this is actually, when you go into your settings, you can see that it's in library. I think you can see that it's an Adobe RGB file. And we don't, of course, want Adobe RGB. What we want when we go for the web, we actually want an sRGB file. So how do you do that? Well, first things first, let's go into Photoshop and do it in Photoshop for those guys that don't want to do it in Lightroom or that don't have Lightroom. Edit original. Okay, so I have a big color space and I have a small color space where I want to go. In other words, I want to go to internet, and internet is mostly sRGB. So mostly, almost all the time. The first thing you do is, because I'm on 16 bits, so let's see what the image is at the moment. Let's first go there. So let's do image. Sorry guys, edit. Let's do convert to profile. There we go. Okay, so, oh, it's actually in Pro Photo at the moment because I went from Lightroom. Okay, so the destination file has to be sRGB. Okay, that's the first thing. You have to go to sRGB. But there are two ways to get there. The first thing is I always work on TIFF 16-bit files. Why 16 bits? Very simple. 16 bits is huge. And we don't want smaller file sizes. And Pro Photo and Adobe RGB are profiles that really don't fit in an 8-bit color space because they're too big. You don't have enough steps. Now, if I do it this way, I'm going to show you now how to do it wrong. You go to Edit, and you go to 8 bits. So that's the first thing you have to do. And as you can see, I never do this in Photoshop. Mode, go to 8 bits. Now, the first thing you will notice, and I don't think you will see that on YouTube because it already compresses the heck out of a signal, is that I see all these weird artifacts now. So when I do undo and I go back to 16 bits, it cleaned up. And that's because there isn't enough space in that 8 bits to do that whole Pro Photo color space. And my monitor only shows you Adobe RGB, so it still doesn't make any sense, but okay. So the first thing I have to do is make sure that I go from Pro Photo to sRGB while I'm still in 16 bits. So edit, convert to profile, sRGB. Now the first thing you will see, and again you don't see that on YouTube, is that the reds literally do this. Boom. So I had these beautiful reds, they go here. Very simple, because my sRGB can't do Adobe RGB reds. Let me explain it like this. This is Adobe RGB reds. This is sRGB reds. So when I convert from sRGB to Adobe RGB, nothing will happen because it can't calculate it back. But when I convert from Adobe RGB to sRGB, it actually cuts the reds off. This is also why a lot of people email me like, hey Frank, I work in an Adobe RGB color space. I really like that Adobe RGB color. My monitor, the reds are really popping. I go to the internet and it looks dull. What's going wrong? Nothing. That's exactly how it's supposed to be. Because the reds are here on Adobe RGB and are here on sRGB. Again, I hope you can see that online. So if I do undo convert to profile, see this? No, you can't see it. I don't see it in the preview here, so that's a shame. But here you can literally see the reds really compressing. Now that I did this, now the only thing I have to do is image mode, and now I can go to 8 bits. Now the only thing I have to do is change the size of my image and store this as a JPEG, because TIFFs on internet doesn't make any sense. Okay, but I don't want to do that, of course, so file close, and don't save this. Okay, a much quicker way is actually do it from Lightroom. Create a profile. So go here to your TIFF and file, export. Now what I can do is go to for internet. That means for internet. Now what it does to my Dropbox temp for thuis, temp for home, and I can just choose a file size. Let's do desktop, tethering, internet ready, select folder. Now what I have to do is go to JPEG, quality 70, go to sRGB, so make sure that you're on sRGB, resize to fit. I always do 1250 as the longest edge, resolution 2072, doesn't really matter. Nothing really matters to me. No, I'm just kidding. And now I have a watermark. And I actually choose my watermark always with Studio FD on the bottom. As you can see here, you can just choose a PNG or JPEG. Make sure you have a PNG because that's transparent. And just drop it in, and now you can still move it around, but I won't do that now. And now go to export. And now I want to show you something. And this is where I get a lot of questions from you guys from. And again, I hope you can see this on your monitors. Let me go to the other monitor. Let me just drag this down. There we go. So now we have internet ready. So we have this image. Okay. There we go. Looks okay. Let me make that smaller. Okay. Now let's go to my drive, entitled session capture. Let me find the TIFF. There we go. I think this is the TIFF. Yep. Open that one. And just put that next to each other. And now you will probably see where I'm going with my proper calibration. So, I get a lot of people that actually see difference between those two files. Now, as you can see on my monitor, and I hope again you can see that on the internet, there is hardly any difference. Well, if you look correctly, you can actually see that there's a huge difference. The difference is that this part, I hope you can see my pointer, but it's actually the part on the left one. Let me paint it in. Hey, there we go. This is of course paint. So let me just draw this in. This part is magenta, while this part over here, ooh, it's too large. Okay, let me try that again. Sorry guys. Open it up. Go all the way down. There we go, open it up. Okay, there we go. So this part that I just draw in, so this part is magenta over here and is actually red on the other one. So what's going on? Well, again, on the internet or on YouTube, you don't see this, but it's exactly the same thing that I saw happening on my screen when I did my profile conversion from Adobe RGB, or in my case, ProPhoto RGB, to sRGB. The reds were crushed, went a little bit to magenta in the darker areas, and that's it. So when you see something like this, nothing is wrong with your calibration. Everything is fine. The problem is the monitor is great, your files are great. It's just that Windows isn't color managed. So let's see what happens if we put those two next together in Lightroom. You might think that they look the same, right? Let me see if that really is the matter. So don't save. So let's go to my file. Let's go to tethering, internet ready. Let's take that JPEG. Let's do a copy. Let's do that into my untitled folder. Now you might think, Frank, why are you showing this? For the very simple reason, this is where so many people struggle with. And when you see me doing it, I hope it makes it a little bit clearer that it's not your mistake, but it's actually how it's supposed to be. So let's sync this up. So library, go to capture, synchronize folder. Okay, we have one image in. That's correct because that's the JPEG. Do import. Okay, give it 5 stars. There we go. Okay, sort on 5 stars. So capture, sort on 5 stars. So now I have them next to each other. And let me see, this is the TIFF and this is the JPEG. Okay, there we go. TIFF, JPEG. Sorry, that's not the JPEG. Where's my JPEG? There's my JPEG. So this is the JPEG. This is the TIFF. JPEG, TIFF. JPEG, TIFF. I really hope you guys can see this online, but you see exactly the same thing happening. And again, it shouldn't be normal if this didn't happen, because I'm looking at a Pro Photo file on an Adobe RGB monitor, so my monitor actually shows the red all the way to that maximum red setting. And I'm using sRGB on an Adobe RGB monitor, and sRGB simply is a smaller color space. And this is one of the mails I got yesterday, and I really hope this explains it, because when I announced that we're going to do this workshop, the digital classroom, all about color management, this was the question that came in all the time. Everybody asked me like, hey Frank, when I upload it on the internet and I do it in Lightroom, I put them next to each other, they look different. Sure, if you have an RV that's 8.5 meters long and you cut it in half, it will look different. It's the half, right? It will never grow back. So that's why that happens. Okay, let me see if we have more questions, and otherwise we're going to do another photo shoot with our red special guitar. And we're going to do it also, Annelie, can you put a strobe on the other side with the blue gel? Let's do a little bit adventure. Okay, let me see if we have any questions. Do we have any questions on Facebook, Annelie? No. Okay. Let me see. What does clipping mean? Clipping means that at one point you hit that barrier, it can't go any higher, and then it just clips. Let me show you. So let me go into Photoshop, and let me just show you. I can very easily just draw that for you. New. Let's do a new one. Okay, so let's just draw something for you. So this is a color space. It's a really bad representation. Oh, by the way, I do that wrong. Sorry. Okay, so this is a color space. We have green, we have red, we have blue. In the middle we have the black body curve. This is your D point, D65. And the cool thing is, let me just lower the opacity now for a second. Okay, when you draw a line from red to D, you actually end up here at cyan. When you do from blue through the blue point, you come out on yellow. And when you do it from green to the blue point, you come out in magenta. So these are your primary colors. And these are your secondary colors. Cool. So what happens when something clips? Now this is the maximum point for green. So let's do that again. So let's go back to here. And so let's do it really like this. So this is my color space. This is the maximum green I can give. This is the maximum blue. This is the maximum red. And this is sRGB. So now we're going to go to Adobe RGB. So now I can do this. There we go. Red, green, blue. Awesome. Now let's go to the maximum Pro Photo RGB. And again, this is a very, very simple representation, guys. So don't hold me on it. Officially, they are more, they look different. So again, this is blue, this is red, this is green. So we have these bigger color spaces. Now, as soon as I go from that bigger color space to a smaller one, what will actually happen is when, for example, this is your whole color space, and you go like whoop, 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 whoop. We have all these different steps in red. Normally, when you go to a color space and you do a convert, so don't do assign, but do convert, it will actually do this. So it will make the color space smaller. But let's say these are 10 steps. The 10 steps will just be the same 10 steps, but it will just compress it, right? Now, when you do an assign, it will actually just very hard just cut it off. Okay, a lot of noise behind me. Don't worry, they're not demolishing anything. So, what happens when you go from sRGB to Adobe RGB? Well, you can make it smaller to bigger, but nothing actually happens. It doesn't calculate those colors back. The only thing it does, it just extends it. So that's when you get all those nasty, like for example, sometimes you see when you shoot JPEG and if your compression too high, that in the sky you see all these, it's not smooth. You see this little weird stuff because, well, it doesn't work like that. It's just don't have enough steps. You need 16 bits for that. So that's what happens when a color clips. At one point, the color just doesn't want to go any further. So let's say this is the curve of the color. It goes up, 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 up. This is Adobe RGB. Now you go to sRGB. It goes up, 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 up. And this is the limit. Doesn't go any further. So it just collects here. It keeps collecting, keeps collecting, keeps collecting, and that's where it actually clips. So now you don't see any detail in that reds anymore, so you don't see a nice graduation in the red. What you actually see is a big red bump of color. No nice smoothness in it anymore, no graduation, it's just a big bump of color, and that's when we call the color is clipped, so it doesn't work anyway. Okay, hope that was cool. Is there a difference between bleeding and clipping? Oh yes, there's a big difference between bleeding and clipping. What bleeding does, and you see that a lot with certain panels, is that when you have two colors next to each other, they will bleed into each other. So for example, you have a blue square and a red square, and you have the perfect monitor. It will actually do this. So you have the square 1, you have square 2, and there will be no interaction between those two. Now if you have a little bit of a funky monitor that isn't that good, it will actually start doing this. So it will infect the other sides. And it will slowly fade out. So you don't have a nice line between those two, but it will actually just fade a little bit out. We call that also bleeding. Let me see. Does Hensel have an adapter for Bowens mount? Yes, Hensel does. And if you love the Hensel modifiers, like I do, you can get modifiers or you can get converters at Hensel, the Dutch importer actually. So Patrick and Peter. Sorry, Peter. So Patrick and Peter will actually have those converters for you guys, so you can mount those Hensel modifiers on your Allengram strobes or on your Bowens or Profoto or whatever brand you want. And if they don't have it, it's also on AliExpress or Alibaba. But the Dutch importer is a really good price for that, so guys, contact them. Hey Frank, hopefully Pick of My Kit Kat critiqued this time. Meg, I don't know which image that is. I will do a photo critique at the end, and if it's a kit in there, I will find it. And otherwise it will be in the net, so don't worry. Okay, hi from Germany. And Johan Sobedal, I love one more photo critique. Now today is of course sponsored by X-Rite, so I'm not going to do a normal digital classroom with commercials and etc. I'm going to do a commercial because we have to set up, but it's a little bit different from normally. So it's all about color management today. So I will do a photo critique, don't worry. File close. Okay, no. Okay, go down. And let's start up capture 1 again for the final shoot. We're going to do one more shoot with the red special. I love that. So we're going to do a very, very quick commercial break for the very simple reason I need to set up. So, one moment, guys. Hey guys, and welcome to our studio in Emmeloord. My name is Frank Dorhoff, and today I want to talk to you guys about something that we get a lot of questions about. Hey Frank, how do you like this image? Hey Frank, what can I improve in this image? And of course, I love to help you guys out. But online, I mostly am limited to just saying, hey, I really like it, or continue like this, or change this. I can only do short images because, let's be honest, we get so many questions. So that's what actually got us thinking, and we started a Patreon. Now what is a Patreon? Well, let me put it this way. Do you want an extensive photo critique every month? Do you want the bed phone, where you can directly contact me with any questions you have? Do you want to be a member of a group that's closed off on Facebook that have the same interest as you guys? That isn't about putting people down, but it's actually about helping people progress in their photography and retouching. Well, that's our Patreon. Now, by joining our Patreon, every month you can deliver 1 or 2 images. We're not that strict about it. And I will do a whole video. In that video, I will show you how I would do the retouching, what I would change about the shot, and I give you a whole lot of tips. That video is put online on a closed off website. And it means that only the guys from Patreon can see that video and help you out. So I help you out and the whole community helps you out. It's just an awesome way to learn. So if you like what we do, of course the first thing you can do is subscribe to our channels, leave comments, and smash that like button because we really like it, and tell other people about it. But if you want to do a little bit more and help us out creating the awesome programs you enjoy, like Behind the Closed Doors, Digital Classroom, quite frankly, our upcoming podcast, Beyond Photography with the Dorhoffs, and a lot more, then please join our Patreon. I already know you're absolutely gonna love it. So head on over to the link below and start joining our awesome group on Patreon and get a lot of benefits. Thank you so very much for supporting our work. See you online. Hey guys, Frank here, and mark your agendas. October 19 and 20 in our studio in Emmeloord. The most intense workshop I teach. 2 full days of an ultimate weekend, and this time it's really special. You don't want to miss this one. If you see the images online and you didn't go, you're gonna feel sorry. First day in our studio, it's a full day. We're gonna learn you everything about lighting, starting with classical lighting, like think George Horel, Harcourt, film noir. We're gonna go straight into modern lighting, everything you want to know about modifiers, gels, smoke, lighting your model from the back, whatever. It's the most creative stuff you can do with lighting, but most of all, understanding lighting. And we're gonna work with sets. Now after that you think, okay, that's enough for one day. No, it's not. We're gonna take you out for dinner, on our costs of course, in a great wok restaurant. Everybody talks about the wok restaurant like, that was so awesome. So we're gonna take you there every single ultimate weekend. Now after that, you think you can go to your hotel? No. We're going to go back to the studio. We're going to talk everything about business. We're going to talk about building your brand. We're going to do retouching. And if you don't fall asleep by the end of that night, you're a real trooper. So you're going to go to your hotel for a really short sleep period, because the next day, very early, we're going to take the whole group and we're going to go to a real castle. What's a real castle? It's a castle that's actually real. So it's really old. In the old days there were knights and everything, and it was just awesome, but the knights are gone of course now. But we're still going to shoot there. And we're going to shoot inside in the beautiful, beautiful areas. We're going to shoot outside in the gardens with the castle in the back. And I'm going to explain you everything about mixing light sources, using gels, maybe using reflectors if the night is weather, storytelling, extreme styling, whatnot more. Without any doubt, guys, this is the most intense learning experience in a workshop you can find anywhere on the market. And if you register now, we have an early bird. So head on over to our website, I will leave the link below, and join us for our ultimate weekend on October 19th and 20th in the Netherlands in our studio. And the whole workshop is taught in English. Head on over. See you there. Oh, and the group is very, very limited. We have a maximum of 10 students, so there's a real one-on-one experience, because that's what the ultimate weekend is all about. The ultimate for ultimate learning experience. See you online. See you the 19th and the 20th. Okay guys, and we're back in the studio. I'm gonna walk to my spot, and what we did now is we actually got a blue gel on one side, a red gel on the other, and of course we're gonna ask Bart to give it a little bit of smoke in a moment, but first I want to show you how it looks without that smoke. So I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna first take the shot. I want both in. So let's do it like, oh, that's a lot of light from the blue one, way too much. Bart, can you put the blue one all the way down to 4? And the gel isn't completely on, so okay, let me try it again. Okay. No, it doesn't fire yet. One moment. Is it on 4?
It's on 5.
Okay, no, it's okay. Just leave it there. Gonna wait for a second for it to recycle. Okay, it doesn't fire. One moment. Let me see what's going on. It should fire. Okay, 1 second. Okay, let's hope that it fires. Let's put it on slave mode. Okay. Sorry guys, that's the main thing when you do a live shoot. Okay. There we go, really like this. Gives it way more atmosphere. I'm gonna move the red one a little bit more. So I want that really tight combination of the two. So I'm going to place this behind, a little bit lower. And then can you do the high cam so that everybody can see what we're doing? Okay, let me move this one a little bit more in. There we go. Awesome. Okay. Okay, so now I have the 2 strobes on the back. There we go. So this is much nicer. Let me do from a slightly higher angle. And I think I like the lower angle better, Yeah, without a doubt. So I'm going to go a little bit closer. Am I still in the camera, Annemiek, when I'm here?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Cool. Bart, can you turn that one? No, just wait. I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to close down my camera itself. So I'm going to make more like a moody shot. I'm going to go to f8. Now I have to explain this. I metered everything on 5.6. Now I shot this on f5 by accident, so it should be on 5.6. So I metered everything on 5.6, but sometimes you meter something on 5.6, but if you want a little bit more mood, you can actually also close down and stop. So using a light meter doesn't mean you have to shoot on that setting. Because now when I close it down a little bit, do you see that it gives it a little bit more of that stage feeling? Now remember when you do a sunset, for example, if you shoot a sunset on exactly the correct setting, it doesn't look like a sunset. So normally with the sunset you just underexpose just a little bit to make those colors pop a little bit more. And that's actually what we're doing now. The correct setting is 5.6. I'm shooting on f8. So by opening up, I can actually make the colors a little bit more desaturated. And by closing down, I can make it more saturated. So let me show you first one on 5.6. So that's this. This is the correct setting. As you can see now, the red special really shines. You see that red color, but on top, I think it's a little bit too bright. When I close down to f8, what I will actually get is that the red special is a little bit more moody, like that real stage presence. And now you can see that the back actually starts to work. But I still want that mask in. That mask, that operatic stuff. I hope I pronounced it correctly, by the way, and doesn't make a fool of myself. So let's get the other mask in too. Where's the other mask, Annemiek? And there we go. So we have one mask on one side, one on the other. Ah, my smoke assistant has arrived, also called Brian. So Brian, do you like your guitar? Sure. It's my son, and he's named Brian. Okay. Slightly lower angle, but not too much. Really love this. Okay, Bart and Brian. Bart, you can fill up the back with smoke. Okay. Start low and don't aim towards me. Start low and just fill it all up. And Brian, as soon as I say yes, low, you just fill up the front. But we have to wait for Bart, because I really want that back to be totally filled up, also towards the red. Brian, you can help him a little bit. Just do the backdrop. That's a professional smoker. There we go. Okay, Brian. Do a little bit on the front now. 1, 2, go. Okay. It's a really thick smoke, so that's not that nice. And as you can see, because those backstrokes are so bright, it actually creates a little bit like the guitar is almost going into the light. And of course Brian made it an album called Back to the Light. So it's a little bit of inspiration for that. Okay, Bart, can you aim your smoke down? Because you have the... Oh, that's too much, Brian. Aim down here, towards me. Okay, Brian, on the floor. Ah, there we go. Bart is already there. There we go. We have to... And smoke, guys, that's really something. It's hard to steer. So it won't work at once. That's not because I'm not a good photographer. It's simply because smoke is very, very hard to control. Okay, Brian, very, very slow. On the floor. There we go, and stop. Okay, a little bit coming up. There we go. This is awesome. Okay, a little bit more. And stop. That's nice. So now we really filled everything up with smoke. And when I go a little bit closer and more white, I can of course get back or get away with a little bit less smoke. There we go. Okay, final shots. Let's do a little bit from an angle. It's too much of an angle. Let's choose this. Awesome. Let's see if we have some cool shots there. So let's go back to the computer. Okay, let's just see what we got. And now because we are working in Lightroom today, because of the color checker, I can just very simply again go here. Oh, let me switch back to my camera. Sorry guys. There we go. So let's just go back here. Oh, and we change my whole layout. Okay, there we go. Okay, let's go to capture. And what you can now do is just do synchronize. So you can shoot tethered in Capture One and just synchronize that folder into Lightroom. And the cool thing is, as long as you don't go to that capture folder, you only see that Lightroom capture. So let's go to import. It takes a little while, images are pretty big. There we go. And now I can just go through and just see what I like. And again, I really like those masks in the front, so that will be one of the shots. But I do like it a little bit more smoky. Oh, this one is nice. It's just a shame that there's not enough smoke on the... There we go. That's awesome. That's too much smoke. As you can see, smoke is really, really hard to focus on. There we go. This is awesome. This is the right amount of smoke. Here we have another one, the right amount of smoke. And another one. Another one bites the dust. We keep that queen thing going. These are a little bit less. Okay, and now I can just go to 5, and I can only see the 5s that I just selected. But as soon as I press here capture, and I go to 5 stars, you actually see that we have them all 5. Now I don't want 5, so this one no. This one is okay. I actually love this one, to be honest. No, I miss a little bit of smoke in this area, so don't go there. No, this one is okay. But this one is actually perfect. Yep. I do like the red special there a little bit better here. So we can combine those two. That's not a real problem. So I will do that later. So first I will do some photo critiques for you guys, and then later, after the show, I will actually combine those two and you will find them on social media. Okay. So photo critique. Because you guys want to have a photo critique, right? So there we go. Let me see where I have them. Let me do that up. Review. There we go. Okay, I see one with a kit. But I don't know if that's the one. And otherwise, just email me and I will do a special one for you. Don't worry. So let me do that one. And I will do a few. I like this one. Oh. I do it like this. Okay. And one more. Okay, there we go. Okay, first image. Okay. Oh, this is from Michael. Really cool guy. Going through a little bit of a rough time at the moment. We're thinking about you, buddy, but hang on. And what I love about this shot is actually that it tells a story. And that's what I always like about shots. You have to make sure that a shot is not just an image. It's a representation of a unique moment in time that never comes back again. And the thing that I like about this one is that it doesn't... the model doesn't look straight into the camera. So it's more like a candid shot, which in this case works great. If she would have looked in the camera, it would have been a little bit more like, yeah, seen that shot, post shot. This is more like, hey, he just captured it. Really like it. The only thing where I'm a little bit in doubt is this. So that side part, I think it would be nicer if that would be all green, or if you can see, for example, that she's holding somebody's hands. That tells a little bit more of a story. The eyes are absolutely stunning. I can zoom in. Let me see, a few, 200% maybe. There we go. Oops. Edit, undo. Yeah, this is awesome. really dark eyes. Now normally maybe I would open this up just a little bit with the dodge tool, but absolutely not too much. Oh, there we go, dodge tool. And I'll just maybe do this again, not too much, just a little bit. See, that just opens it up a little bit. There we go. Just gives the eyes a little bit more sparkle. But I absolutely love the shot. I love how tight you crop. A lot of people will show a lot more hair. This is just a perfect crop. Really, really like this one. It's more like a candid and awesome. Okay, this one. I think I know this one is from Johan. I don't know for sure, but I guess. I like the dog. I like the dog, how it looks. I like the lighting. The thing that I'm a little bit worried about is her face. You see that she's very tight, like it's almost like the Joker. It's how do you call it in English? A grimace. It's like normally you see smile. This is more like a forced smile, a little bit. That's the only thing about the shot. If you take that out, let me do something really for a moment. So now I don't mean this as disrespect, by the way, but what I do now is I actually take away the factor that she has a grimace, right? Now when I look at the shot, what I see is a beautiful dog. I love the direction of lighting. Lighting comes from here. Really love the direction of lighting. I like that you still see a little bit of the backdrop. I like the lines over here. And now because the mouth is away, I really love the face. Her eyes are really sparkling. You can see that she's smiling. Now as soon as I take this out again, the only thing that I can look at is boom, straight to the face, straight to the mouth. And I think in this case that takes a little bit away from an awesome shot. So I personally would have coached her just a little bit to just relax those side parts of her mouth. So just make her relax a little bit more. Now some people will actually, as soon as you tell them like, okay, 1, 2, 3, here comes the camera, they go like, make them relaxed. Make them really, really relaxed in front of that camera. Talk to them and maybe make her smile. And at that point, just boom, just press that button and just immediately capture that one perfect smile. Now, if they keep doing this, like a little bit more tension, ask her to open up her mouth just a little bit. So instead of doing this, just open up like this. And it will just make it a little bit more easy. I really like the shot. I really like the retouching here. I love the skin. The dog is absolutely, because you use a light slightly from the side, it's really cool on the dog. Now, when you zoom in, you can actually see that her fingernails, I'm not a fan of this. In all honesty, I would have asked her to fix that. But what you can do, of course, is with the healing brush, fix it yourself. So you can see what I'm doing here. Look at this. And here it's actually put on wrong. And I don't know if you can fix that, but probably with the clone tool, or maybe soften this up just a little bit. I don't know. I'm not a fan of what she did with her nails, to be honest. There we go. But overall, lighting-wise, Johan, really, really nice. Really cool. Now, by the way, if you want to make your model jump out just a little bit more, make a duplicate layer. Take your dodge tool and just go over the highlights. Look at this. She really starts to pop now. A little bit on the dog. And make sure you follow the lines of her body. Otherwise it looks really weird. And maybe a little bit in the hair. Pop the eyes. And do this nicer than I do now. Because I'm really doing this fast and dirty. There we go. So now before and after. So literally just make her pop a little bit more. Now if you want to make her pop even more, let's do layer flatten image. Do this. Layer, new layer. And now go to mode, soft light, fill with neutral gray. Zoom out. There we go. Take your elliptical marquee tool. And I agree it should be called a selection tool. There we go. Select, modify, feather. And do it like, I don't know, resolution-wise, 500. Let's do 500, just for fun. Okay, select inverse. Take a bucket of black paint and just drop it in. Now, the difference is subtle, unless you take it away. You see this? It really makes that model just even more jump out, and I really like that. I like that my models are part of my image. I like to see the backdrop, but they shouldn't compete with the model. Now, in this case, it didn't compete with the model, but I think by adding that little bit of vignetting, you make her stand out even more, and especially with the Dutch and burn on her clothing. By the way, you can also do that in this layer by taking a brush and doing white paint, and then just do the opacity on, let's say, come on. Let's do the opacity on 36. And now you can also paint in, as you can see here, with white. And one of the main advantages of this is it doesn't clip any colors. Like with the dog, you actually saw that here I burned a little bit too much. When you do it with white, it just lights it up. So you can really make, for example, these stairs stand out a little bit more. This. And maybe paint this in back again. There we go. So before, after. It really shifts the focus towards that model. Do you see that? It's a weird thing when you see it for the first time. Awesome. Okay. This one. Yes. Now, a light blaster on the back. We love the light blaster. It's absolutely cool. And this one I absolutely love because it takes a different view on an action figure. Now, you saw me shooting a guitar today. You saw me shooting Batman a few episodes ago. If you didn't remember that one, we'll leave the link below for that one. And it's something that I love to do with action figures, because action figures sometimes, especially when you have the, it's not a real doll, but guys, hot toys. When you have the hot toys, they really look authentic. They really look like Ben Affleck, or they really look like the Batman or the Schwarzenegger. Now, what I like about this one is the lighting. I like the backdrop. And you can still see it's an action figure, so maybe what I would have done is make the pose a little bit. If it's an articulating, I hope that's the right pronunciation. If it's an articulating figure, I maybe would have made the gun, for example, on his hand. So it's a little bit more natural. Now it looks really like a robot. So I would have taken that out. Now, Johan really asked me, quickly, I see that now, asked me a question about if it could be fixed with liquify. Let me see, that's a good one. Go to view 100%. Let me first finish this one. So I really love this, and the only thing I would have changed is add a little bit of smoke next time on the back. That would be awesome. And maybe a light from here, a little bit of accent lighting. I would have made the backdrop from the light blast a little bit darker. Little bit, not too much, but a little bit darker. But overall, I love the creativity. I want to see more of these kind of shots, because action figures rule. And let's be honest, they're very patient, like guitar. Okay, filter. Let's go to liquify. Let's see if we can fix that. There we go.
There's a question on Facebook.
Oh, yeah, Facebook. I will go there in a second. Let me zoom in first on this one. Okay, so let's go to the finger. And let's see what we can do. I will probably make it worse, to be honest. Yeah, that doesn't work. That really looks like a Joker now, so don't do that. Now, let me see if I can do something else. I'm just thinking about something. One moment. Let me just pull this in. And make this a little bit bigger. And now what we could do, maybe, just maybe, I don't know, is if I take out the wrinkles. Makes it a little bit less tensioned. Okay. Looks a little bit better. But again, it's better to just do it on set and make sure that your model just doesn't make that too much. And just make them relax, and just talk to them. Make a joke and Just sometimes we have, I also have those models that really, whatever I do, they don't loosen up. And at one time we just started joking with them and they start laughing. And then while you talk, it goes right. But as soon as I tell them like, okay, we're now going to shoot, they go like, okay, now I'm a robot and I'm totally stiff. And you talk with them and they're really relaxed and cool. Okay, now we're going to do the shot. Okay, now I'm into the posing mode. And it doesn't work like that. So shoot with them, make them laugh, and just shoot. And at that point, you will find out that as soon as you keep talking to them, but one point, and this is really, really important, and it sounds really obvious, don't ask them any questions. Because if they ask questions, they will start talking back. And if they start talking back, you will see the mouth move, and you will get even more into trouble because that really. So what I normally do is like, yeah, so this really cool episode on Netflix from Stranger Things, it was awesome, and I will just keep talking so they can't get in between. They will just go like smile butts, and there you have your shot. So it's something you have to learn, and it's really hard. I struggled with it a lot when I started out. Okay, Anouk, you had a question on Facebook.
Yes, turn on the mic.
Yeah, turn on the mic.
Well, I'm sorry, I can't read the whole question, but it's about using the Tiffen Black Mist filter or the soft focus leaf filters. That would be superb for the rest I can't read on my iPad, sorry. But have you ever used those filters, and do you think you should try it?
I didn't use any filters. I'm a let me do that one with Brian May again. What is the Brian May guitar sound? It's a Fox AC30 and a treble booster. That's it. He has everything in the middle. It's incredibly easy to set up. You just go with your hand over the channels and you go like everything on clean, and then I believe everything is cranked up on the drive channel. A little bit of chorus and sometimes a little bit of delay. That's it. Now when you go to Steve Vai and you see his rack, you see that there's like, he's like a tap dancer. What? Oh, do I have the picture? Okay, I will set the picture bigger. Okay. It's gezellig. So when you go to Steve Vai's, sometimes they call it a stamp box. And why do they call it a stamp box? Because when I was at the concert of Steve Vai, I literally constantly saw him tap dancing, like this effect, this effect, this effect, this effect, this effect, this effect. And I was just going like, whew, really? Now, I'm more a guitar player that literally goes straight into a Marshall. I have an Alesis GT, Quadroverb GT, which is an older one from the 80s and 90s. All my gear is from the 80s and 90s. And I just have a little bit of gore, actually almost the same as Brian May. We have it cranked up to Marshall, one effect, and that's it all. I also have a VG88 with all the effects, and I hardly ever use it. I just like to play with a clean tone, solo tone, and a rhythm tone. That's it. And my photography, I do exactly the same thing. Some people, and I won't say, and that's why I give that guitar playing combination. Steve Vai, Brian May, totally different players. They're both awesome, and I love them both. But one plays with a lot of effects, one plays incredibly clean with only one effect. And I'm more like the incredibly clean, everything has to be in camera. Like if you see the shots we took today, let me open up Lightroom again very quickly. And I have to go picture in picture, of course, I know. Go picture in picture. Now, when you look at this shot, it's straight out of the camera. So I can, of course, shoot this without the color gels in and do it in Photoshop by using a brush with color and just paint it. But I just like to do it like this. The thing is that I can't change the blue for the reds or make the blue green. I can do it in Photoshop, but it takes a lot of time. So I limit myself by doing it this way. But I'm more like, okay, think about what I want to shoot it, and then I'm done. So that's why I don't use like soft filters or whatever. If I really need it, I will do that in Photoshop, but not on the camera. The camera is really clean. The only thing is, I say my camera is clean, I never clean my lens for the very simple reason I like those sparkles that dust actually gives you when the light hits it straight on. You can see that in some of the shots where you see those little sparkles. So I really like that. Okay, let me see. More questions because we're almost at the end. Let me see. Alan Dixon, there are only two guitar settings, Frank. Distortion or no distortion. You got it. Without sounding too much guitarish, and I really like that. For me, It's a clean sound, it's a rhythm sound, and a solo sound. And that's it, nothing more. And I just love Marshalls. So yeah, and that's my sound. And I don't say that anything else is wrong, but it's like photography. Some people are very basic, like me, and some people are very advanced. Now the cool thing is, by the way, that I once got a review on my book, which really stuck with me, and it really annoyed the heck out of me. And the review was, this is a crap book. Now the book only gets 5-star reviews or 4-star reviews, so it's weird that somebody finds it a crap book. The reason he gave, because it was a crap book, this is an old-fashioned photographer. Why should you do all that work on location when you can just shoot a model in front of a gray backdrop and Photoshop everything in and do everything with 3D rendering of lighting? Yeah, sure, I'm an old-fashioned photographer. Of course I can shoot it in front of a gray seamless, do everything with 3D rendering and lighting. I should have hired Corey Barker for that, of course, or Joe Grimes or Glenn Dewis or whatever, because I can't do that. But I just like to do it organic, just add the smoke on set. Of course, when I add the smoke in Photoshop, I can really make the smoke appear everywhere I want. But that's why I shoot 6 images. Because then, if the smoke isn't clear in one part, I can actually overlay those 2 images and just create the look that I want. And this, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, is why we shoot that color checker and that lightmeter. Because now, because all those images look exactly the same, I can actually overlap 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 images over each other, and they all have exactly the same color, they all have exactly the same exposure, so I don't have to overlay and work with curves, work with this, work with that to make it work. No, everything is calibrated, just overlay them, done. And that's why we calibrate, and that's why we have a calibrated workflow. Okay, any more questions? Anna Week?
Not really.
Not really. Is there a not so really question? Oh, she's turning on the mic. Now it's going to be interesting.
Well, the guy from the filters is back again, and still I can't read his commands because it's too long. I'm so sorry.
Give it to me, Anna-Week. Maybe you have to press somewhere.
No, I don't think so. If I press, I can only see
so
like
press on more.
Yeah, and then you see the faces.
Oh, that's weird.
But now you can read it yourself.
Yeah, Christoph, I know what you mean. Literally, I know what filters do. It's you spread out that light. Look at David Hamilton, for example. It's something that if you are the manufacturer of those filters, please send them to me. I will review them. I will use them. I will use them properly. And maybe I will incorporate them into my style. But for me personally, I like, what I sometimes use is a polarizer filter. I use it on the drone to make actually my shutter speed lower, because otherwise you get that choppy look. That's a tip in between, by the way. If you shoot with drones and you don't like your video because it's too choppy, and a lot of people ask me like, hey Frank, how do you do it? Because with your drone footage, when you tilt left or right, it looks really smooth. It's because I use a lower shutter speed. You have to try to get that shutter speed around, let's say 50th of a second, 60th of a second, 100th of a second, but not higher. And when you don't use an ND filter on your drone, it will actually be on a 1,000th of a second, and it will be very, very choppy. Now that polarizer filter I sometimes use when I shoot outside and we have water and you really want that water to have no shine, or when you shoot a car and you want that reflection out. But overall I don't use a lot of filters. And again, if you're the manufacturer, please send them to me. I will review them. I will do an honest review, and maybe I will love them. But it's just not something that I will, let me put it this way, voluntarily go to a filter and go like, hey, let's buy this filter and put it on. I would rather just shoot this way.
For Sony, please.
Oh yeah, for Sony. If you send them, please make sure they're for Sony. For the 24-70 G Master. Love that lens. Okay, let me see. We have some other stuff. On Sunday, September 16, we have the kickoff of the Hensel photo tour. If you want any information on that, just give me an email. It's on September 16th. It's in Eersel. That's Brabant. And it's close to Belgium. It's really awesome. It's a cool studio. It's on a Sunday. And we're going to do a lot of stuff with the Hensel strobes and, of course, lighting techniques. It's not a Hensel tour. It's actually a kickoff of the Hensel tour because we do it in cooperation with Hensel. But it is a 100% Frank Dorff workshop. I don't do stuff that is promotional. I do workshops. And I don't believe in, hey, you have to shoot with this brand. No, they're universal. You can use it for everything. I use Hensel. I love Hensel. And the reason I do it is because we do it with Hensel. But it's a real workshop, so don't expect a demo. It's a 100% workshop. So that's really cool. And yes, September 26 to 29, I will be at Photokina at the BenQ booth. So make sure you visit us. We do 2 demos a day. It's not really a demo. I talk about lighting and styling and color. And I do one on street and travel photography. So make sure you visit that. That's really cool. Photokina at the BenQ booth on... Huh?
Germany.
Oh, Germany. Yeah, Photokina, Germany.
Meet and greet.
And we have meet and greets. I'm there all day. So if you want to meet up, just holler on my social media and we'll meet up and shake hands and kiss and hug and make pictures and make beautiful stuff, sign books and whatever, and grab a beer, whatever, or just say hi. Ultimate Weekend is on October 19 and 20th, and we're going to do a castle, and that workshop is all in English. So make sure, if you're an English speaker, make sure you book the Ultimate Weekend. We only have 2 seats left, so be fast. And for the, there's another English workshop coming up, and that's November 10th. It's cosplay with Puka, and that's a normal workshop which I normally do in Dutch, but this time we're going to do it in English because somebody asked me, can you do it in English? And sure, we can do it in English. So November 10th, cosplay with Puka. Awesome workshop. That's it for today. We would love to thank X-Rite, BenQ and Rogue, of course, for their support for Digital Classroom. This is a dream of me, just telling you guys over the air what I love to do. And I love shooting. I love teaching you guys. So that's why I really support also those brands. Do remember that those brands didn't approach me to use their products. I used their products. I loved their products. And that's when I became an ambassador. Same with Hansel. I really love their products. We talked for a year, I think, before I switched. And now I'm an Hansel ambassador. But it's because I love their products. I will never ever tell you guys to buy something that I don't support 100%. Because you can make money, but you can't make a career. And you can lose your career in 10 seconds by telling you guys something that's not right. And I don't believe in that. Okay, thank you so very much for watching. If you have any questions, leave comments below. If you like what we do, please subscribe to the channel, leave comments below, and of course smash that like button because we really like that. Hey guys, see you again next time. I think I'm going to play some guitar. I think we're going to play Hammer to Fall.
Yes.
Ayo. I sign off. And again, thank you so very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Bye. And remember, tonight, Freddy's birthday, take a beer for one of the greatest rock singers in the world. Thank you very much. Bye, guys.